Solar, Foster Carney Foundation, and Pennsville Bank. Let's tee it up for Ranch Hope. Sponsor and player registrations at ranchhope.org.
Sports is what we do.
You're in your car, you're in your house, you're wherever you are. You're a sports fan.
97.3 ESPN.
Because if you weren't a sports fan, you wouldn't be listening.
WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Officially, Nick Nurse is the new head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. Now what? Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We will get you some of the audio from earlier today's Nick Nurse press conference that you heard right here on 97.3 ESPN in the 3 o'clock hour. Plus, we will preview the NBA Finals Game 1 tonight between the Nuggets and the Knicks. We will be joined by Bally Sports NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson in less than 20 minutes from now to get into all of that. As always, you can join the conversation. Tell me, how do you feel about Nick Nurse after you've heard some of what he had to say today? Text board is open at 609-403-0973. That is the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. So Nick Nurse finally spoke today. And there were a couple things that he said that I wanted to hit on because he had a very, it was not a short answer at all for any question he was asked. I thought Nurse, for a guy who has never worked in a market like Philadelphia, he seemed more than prepared to deal with what comes with the Philadelphia media. He felt like a guy who understood what he was walking into, and he handled it very well. And one of the questions that was asked him very early on in the press conference that I thought was very interesting, his answer, which is on why did he want to be the Sixers head coach? Why did he choose Philadelphia over Phoenix and Milwaukee? Why did he choose Joel Embiid over Giannis and Devin Booker? Why did he choose all these other options? Said, you know what? I want to go to Phoenix. I want to go to Milwaukee. I want to be the Sixers head coach. Nick Nurse this afternoon said this.
First of all, I know it's a good team because I'm in the trenches trying to battle you guys a lot, and a pretty good rivalry, right? We saw each other a lot in playoffs and stuff as well. Certainly a big factor. And then it's I think what's most important is ownership. Just like the other side, you do your research and everything I hear is super positive. And I know Daryl and Daryl's track record of getting players and putting together a roster that can compete for the title, I think speaks for itself. And that's what made it a fairly easy decision in the end.
2 points I take away from that. First of all, the very end, which is it was a very easy decision. Now, to the Sixer fan out there, they don't think it's an easy decision because, we have a lot of people who are fans of our sports teams who are a grass is greener on the other side of the fence type person. They're the kind of people who think that no matter what they have, the person next door or the person down the street has it better. Nick Nurse is telling you, you don't have it as bad as you think you have it. He talked about the GM. He talked about the owner. He talked about the roster. He talked about the team. And I thought it was very interesting that he talked about, how, look, this is a good team. I have to compete against team. I have to plan for playing this team. I know what it takes to beat this team. So I know what it takes to potentially coach this team. There is an obvious piece that Nick Nurse has about this job right now. Now, whether he still is in that place years down the road, we will find out. But for right now, it's very, very obvious that Nick Nurse is a guy who wants to be here because he says of all the job openings that were out there, this was the best one. He picked Embiid over Giannis. He picked Embiid over Devin Booker. He picked the Sixers ownership, which has been highly criticized by fans in this city, over the ownership in Phoenix, with a guy who people have a lot of question marks about, and Milwaukee, which is a dumpster fire, which is basically a rotating managerial situation. He chose Josh Harris over those situations. And then you have Daryl Morey. He chose Daryl Morey over every other GM in the league. Every opportunity that was open. And you look what happened with the news about Monty Williams. Monty Williams is getting an insane amount of money to go coach the Detroit Pistons. Monty Williams looks like he is going to be, if not the highest, one of the highest paid coaches in the entire NBA. You know why? Because Detroit had to overpay him to come to their team. You didn't have to overpay Nick Nurse to come to the Sixers. And when it comes to this guy, when Daryl Morey said, when he was asked, why Nick Nurse? This was Daryl Morey's answer. And again, it was a very eye-opening answer for me.
A partner who you can define an objective and say, use their creative basketball mind to see how to achieve that, whether it be certain tactical things on the floor or certain ways to construct a roster that obviously everyone's fighting for the same, cap tax type resources where you have to fit everything in. Great coaches can help you unlock players that maybe can create value that other teams don't see or can't unlock. And that's the key. It's like, how do you get these players who can help in a partnership with the front office and the coach to achieve a greater objective?
It's very obvious that Daryl Morey is going to be more comfortable working with Nick Nurse than Doc Rivers. That's not a negative against Rivers or Morey. It's just a fact. Both men were very comfortable up on that stage today. Neither one of them, dropped a ton of ums. Neither one of them felt they had to measure their words a crazy amount throughout the press conference. Both of them answered every question to the best of their ability. And Daryl Morey described Nick Nurse as a partner, someone who's going to come and maximize the talent that's here. I mean, that's what Nick Nurse did in Toronto. Nurse in Toronto took a team that had never gotten past a certain point and helped guide them to that next level. He got Pascal Siakam to become a perennial all-star caliber player. He elevated Fred VanVleet to a random bench player to now a guy that people are asking, do you replace James Harden with Fred VanVleet? Like, that's the level that he got that guy to. It's very possible that Nick Nurse is going to tap into something with Joel Embiid that we all didn't initially see there. And the same thing with Tyrese Maxey. Look, Maxey is a guy who has frankly been an incredible, and I mean incredible, piece of the big picture. It is not an understatement to say that when you look at some of these guys, right, you have to always ask the question, if we think the Sixers are conference championship contenders, then maybe you need one more change, one more adjustment. And Nurse believes he is that adjustment. As I told you guys yesterday, I understand the perception of Morey, like Nurse, is going to be that these guys think very highly of themselves, so they think they're so smart. I think people are not used to people who are a combination of, and I'm going to say this as professionally as possible. Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN, hanging out with you on a Thursday night. We'll talk more NBA with NBA insider Scoop B. Robinson coming up in about 8 minutes from now. We live in a world that people are not used to a combination of ultra confident and awkward. There's a lot of people in today's society who talk a good game, but they are actually incapable of doing a job that they are so confident they can do. But they're a good talker. They get on a podium, they say all the right words, they give you the headlines, they give you the great quotes, but they're actually not good at doing a job. There's a lot of people who they're not as great orators. They're not as great at saying things a certain way. They're not as good at putting the words together in a way that appeals to other people who are not them. And because they're incapable of that ability to communicate with people who are different than them, they are perceived as cocky. They're perceived as egotistical. They're perceived as I'm better than you, when that might not be their intention at all. They just don't know how to talk to you the way that you want them to talk to you, or how you are used to people in those jobs, those positions talking. And, to not mix, sports and politics here, but, there have been studies done that, the person who has the best presentation on a television debate wins the presidency almost every single year since John F. Kennedy. That since 1960, the individual who looks and sounds the part the best wins the election. And they might not be the most qualified, they might not be the best person for the job, but they are the person that people connect with the most. And the problem is that in sports, people like Daryl Morey will speak, people like Nick Nurse will speak, and they'll say things like this, and it might rub people the wrong way.
This team could be playing tonight, right? I think that along with some others in the Eastern Conference that probably are wishing they were getting ready to throw the ball up tonight. And that combination of staying healthy, the ball bouncing your way, figuring out the long grind that it is to go from the start of the playoffs to winning a title, all those things, are very difficult. Like, you gotta be able to do all that stuff.
He's not saying that to insult anybody. He's not saying the Miami Heat, they don't deserve to be the Sixers do. He's not saying, it's ridiculous for you to be critical of this team, or what he's saying is this team is good enough to play in the NBA Finals. But it takes a lot of things going your way to get to that point. And it's on you now, Nick Nurse, to do that job. Nick Nurse's job right now is to figure out how to take the lessons that he has learned from becoming a champion and help get the Sixers to be the team that is playing in the NBA Finals. Coverage begins at 7:30 today. Miami Heat in Denver. They'll play the Nuggets Coverage begins 7:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN. To break down the NBA Finals and get his reactions on the hiring of Nick Nurse, Brandon Scoopy Robinson, Bally Sports NBA Insider, joins me next here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Josh Hennig hanging out with you as well on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
This weekend on ESPN Radio, Interleague rivals go head-to-head at Dodger Stadium.
Judge swinging, drive, deep left field, way out of here.
Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees continue a West Coast trip in Los Angeles, where they'll face Freddie Freeman and the Dodgers.
Freeman, center field, out of here.
The New York Yankees at the Los Angeles Dodgers. Coverage begins Saturday at 6:30 Eastern. Listen to Major League Baseball on 97.3 ESPN.
What dealer has new Kias under 25 grand and only 2.9% financing?
Who is Matt Black Kia?
What dealer will pay off your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth?
Who is Matt Black Kia?
Correct! Have a job clearing $350 per week? Matt Black Kia in Egg Harbor Township or Toms River wants to approve you. New 2023 Kia Forte or Soul, 0 down, and just 2.9% financing for 48 months. Plus, we're overloaded with trades. Low mileage, one owner trades, many with remaining factory warranty, and they must go to make room for new Kias arriving daily. Just because you don't see your new Kia on the lot doesn't mean you can't be driving it home tomorrow with our exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. $27.78 per thousand finance. Go to mattblackkia.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
What's up? It's a Target trend alert. New swim has just arrived and it's sunny weather approved.
If you're into bikinis or one pieces, high waists or cutouts, they're the perfect combo of trendy, flattering, and affordable.
That's right. And there are so many cool styles with gorgeous details. These suits have macrame, crochet, wood beads, pretty shells, and more. Totally a luxe for less vibe.
Yes, so dive in and shop this Target trend without the spend.
Hey, Dave, can you finish that induction range installation tomorrow?
Orders have really amped up at Nate's Electric.
We need to finish installing it first in Maine. Did we hear back from the grocery chain?
It's no shock he needs electricians, like yesterday.
Smart fridge. Everybody wants one of those these days.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot, but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
It's your last chance to shop Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Now's the time to make your home beautiful with savings on all your spring essentials. Keep cool in style with the Harbor Breeze Summersville ceiling fan. Was $189.98, now just $169.98. And clean up your yard with Craftsman. Buy a V20 string trimmer or leaf blower for just $99 and get a select Bear tool free. Lowe's knows lawn care. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 6/7. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
Finding great people to hire can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Their powerful matching technology delivers so many qualified candidates. It's like finding a needle in a needle stack. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. For less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hi, Robert Downey Jr. here. Did you know that over $10.3 billion was lost to online crime last year alone? Online crime is a huge problem. It affects everyone, and that's why I've partnered with Aura. Aura gives you the tools you need to stay safe online. Fraud and identity theft protection, a password manager, parental controls, and more. Sign up for a free 2-week trial today at aura.com/Robert.
You're listening to Game Night.
Guys, your guys' thoughts and comments a little bit later this hour. The text board is open at 609 403 0973. I see George from Summers Point has already chimed in. We'll get the your messages and more. So to come on the hiring of Nick Nurse and the NBA Finals. But right now, as promised, joining us as he does throughout the basketball season, it's a friend of mine, NBA insider for Bally Sports, Brandon Scoopy Robinson, joins us right now with the NBA Finals. The countdown is on. We're just a couple hours away from tip-off. And Brandon Scoopy Robinson joins us now on 97.3 ESPN. My friend, how are you doing on game one day of the NBA Finals?
So far, so good. I've been going since 6 a.m. to get a nap in, got a good workout in. My trainer kicked my butt today, but I had to make sure that I made time for you too. So thank you for having me as always.
I appreciate you making the time. Listen, you know how it is in this world. We all got to juggle things. So I know. Trust me, I get it. Yeah, I've had one of those days too with the Nick Nurse press conference today. If we can start there for just a moment, I want to ask you your perspective because one of the things that Nick Nurse talked about why he took this job. He was asked outright at the press conference today. He said, "I wanted this organization. I wanted to coach Joel Embiid. I want to work with these players in this city," because he could have gone to Milwaukee, he could have gone to Phoenix, but he chose Philadelphia. How do you feel about that?
I can see his logic. I know Howard Eskin was pressing him a bit during the presser. I think he was the most direct, one of the most direct in the press conference, as well as my good friend Austin in Philly, who got his couple questions in as well. But to directly answer your question, I think he and Joel are a fit. They're silly and quirky in a basketball sort of way. I think they fit. I also think that Phoenix is more of a project. I actually think Phoenix is more of a Doc Rivers project than it is a Nick Nurse project. I think if not Doc, then Ty Lue. But I think Nick Nurse, it's a quick fix more so because I think that Maxey is a Nurse type player. So too was Embiid. And Harden arguably could be too, but I think much doesn't really change in that Philly system. I just think it's a fresh face, honestly. And I think that if James doesn't return, I do think that it becomes a more Maxey-dominated situation. And it's still a dynamic duo with Maxey and Joel Embiid in the city of brotherly love.
Drew Holiday was almost the same age when the Sixers traded him away years ago as Tyrese Maxey is now. And there's a lot of Sixer fans to this day who argue that, don't trade Maxey because he could be the next Drew Holiday. So do you think Nick Nurse is the guy to get that next level out of Tyrese Maxey?
I think Tyrese Maxey's already there. I don't think it's Nick Nurse. I think sometimes we as media folks or we as fans or conduits between the fan and the player often think the coach is going to get it out of them. I think them as professionals, they know what they have to do. And I also just think for Tyrese Maxey, you see those steps being taken every year. I remember around this time at the NBA Finals last year, Maxey shared with me just the transition from playing on the ball, off the ball, playing alongside James Harden, and what that looked like before Harden got there. And, he talked to me about how much Sam Cassell, a veteran point guard himself in the league, winning multiple championships, really pressed him, knowing the difference between scoring, knowing the difference between shooting, and knowing when to kind of pick and choose. I think playing alongside two All-Stars in Harden and Embiid only raises your level of competition naturally. But I also think he was a problem even before he came in the league. I think Tyrese Maxey, be honest with you, if you go back to the trade conversations when Harden was discussed coming to Philadelphia, Brooklyn and Philly were heavily discussing Tyrese Maxey because I know that Sean Marks knew the potential and the talent that was Tyrese Maxey. I think Tyrese Maxey's value is only going to grow. I come into Philly, I see all these commercials for Tyrese Maxey for car dealerships. I just think he embodies that city. I hope he stays. And I know that there's been conversation on the internet, at least, about, Fred VanVleet and the potential of him coming to the city of brotherly love. Yeah, he has a relationship with Nick Nurse, but I do really think that Maxey fits like a glove. Rest in peace, Johnny Cochran. The glove does fit, so you must have quit. I think he should stay.
Now, with all that being said, we can't ignore the other guy we just mentioned earlier, that guy, James Harden. Do you buy into this idea? And you would know better than I would. You buy into this idea that nobody really knows what Harden is going to do? Or do you think Harden has an idea what he's going to do? Because there's a perception being pushed out there by certain people that nobody knows what Harden is going to do. And we're all just going to have to wait 30 days and find out.
Put it like this. I've had conversation with folks around Harden. I've had conversations with people who have coached Harden, trained Harden. I've spent a weekend in a certain city with a certain coach this season who knows James very well. And I directly asked that particular person, do you think James is going to Houston? They said no, and James, yes. But then I've had conversations with agents over the last week just about how players are going about free agency this offseason, as well as sneaker deals. And there's a lot of leverage being played, I think, this season, and a strategic marketing plan being shopped to folks to create leverage. Like, I had a conversation last night with someone on one of the teams that are participating in the finals. And there's a certain deal that was being discussed. I don't want to put it out there, but basically they said, I don't want to give a number to this now, because if we win, yesterday's price is not today's price. And so this is the time of the year where players, their representation and more, are like, I'm going to get the most out of what I'm going to get the most out of. So I think for James, I just think he had a head start. But I'll say this. Houston is a beautiful city. I visited his restaurant a couple months ago I was in Houston for 10 days. He is still very beloved. They have a James Harden Day in Houston. I got a call from somebody within his circle about his wine. They're looking to really be expansive with that whole wine. There's just a lot going on in the business and of basketball, as well as the entrepreneurship arm of James. And I just think this is kind of a duality to controlling your own destiny, but also keeping folks on their toes. You saw that with LeBron when he discussed the potential of retirement. Like, I think that players just have gotten more cognizant of their value and keeping executives in the league on their toes. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. And I think it's a very important point about how, there are layers to this, as we talk with NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson from Bally Sports at Scoopy on Twitter. And of course, don't forget the Scoopy experience over on Instagram. Let's get to tonight's NBA Finals, because I thought that the quote that you put up at Scoopy on Twitter was very important, because big picture, Jokic is the byproduct. Giannis is the byproduct. These international players, even Embiid and Luka, are the byproduct of an NBA vision that was 30 plus years ago to get to this point. And when Michael Malone was talking to you about how, what Nikola Jokic is right now in his first NBA Finals, it's an amazing big picture look at about how where we were years ago and how Nikola Jokic is almost like the AI generated character of that vision.
Yeah, I think I used to tweet this a lot on social media. Imagine a world, and then when it happened, world imagine. Like, you look at the global game, you look at the '92 Olympics, which really spearheaded the global expansion from Dirk to Tony Parker and more. to today's player that is Giannis and Jokic and many of other people. Like I've joked around with people, but like I remember the Run TMC era Golden State Warriors that had Tom Tolbert as the point center. And like I joked and said that Jokic is the much chiseled, improved version of that. You just look at the positionless basketball that is today. You also look at the impact of the Golden State Warriors of positionless basketball and the power of the 3-point shot and the half court shot. I just think that the NBA is professional AAU basketball now. Like you saw in the 2000s where you had guys that came straight out of high school, the Darius Mileses, the Kwame Browns, those guys. And then you look at the rule changes and how, the Kentuckys of the world kind of, got their hands on the cream of the crop. The Tyrese Maxeys, of course, of the world who go to Kentucky, one and done. Like just all of that into a pot of goulash in conjunction with the global expansion is what you see now. And as Mike Malone shared with me, look at the last set of MVPs. You look at Giannis, you look at Jokic, you look at Embiid, all those guys. Like the U.S. game is really not what it used to be, but that doesn't mean that won't change. It's just the global expansion turn and this whole pot of goulash, as I illustrated. So I do think that it's great to see Jokic play that role. I talked to Jokic recently just about that whole comparison thing and who he was watching on YouTube. And he said he really didn't watch many players growing up. He just created his own game. And I think, to be a late pick in the draft, to becoming a multiple-time All-Star, multiple-time MVP, representing Serbia to the fullest, I think it's a great story. And the NBA is big on storylines.
I purposely tweeted out at Josh Hennig when I was mentioning that you would come on the show today, Jamal Murray, because to me, Jamal Murray is the key to the Nuggets being here right now. I don't think it's a coincidence that in the years Jokic couldn't get to the NBA Finals, Murray was either injured or not 100%, or even before Murray got to Denver. Talk to us about what Murray means in this NBA Finals.
I mean, he is the point guard, but he's not. But he's efficient. He's effective. I mean, for years, you've heard experts dictate the fact that, if the Nuggets have a healthy Jamal Murray, then the Nuggets are a championship team. I think Murray is definitely a focal point to this whole pot. I said this over at Bally Sports the other day in our digital webisodes, one of our series. I said, you really look at the coaching and of Michael Malone, Queens native by way of Seton Hall Prep in West Orange, New Jersey. And I know that Murray encapsulates the epitome of a Seton Hall Prep point guard. Some of the other names that have come out of Seton Hall Prep, Brevin Knight, who's my colleague over at Bally Sports with the Memphis Grizzlies, went over to Stanford and had a great career as a point guard, just hard as nails, and just plays at breakneck speed. I really feel like in a world where you look at the Golden State Warriors and people have often joked that Draymond Green is the Warriors point guard and Steph Curry really is by position point guard, but really is the two guard. I think comparatively, when you look at the Denver Nuggets, Murray is in a very similar situation where you have a much bigger point guard in Jokic, who makes it a lot easier for him to be meaning Murray, just a scorer, but can also distribute at will. His handles are crazy. His presence on the court is great. And I think his defensive prowess, this is so underrated. And I'll add this. It's not just Murray. It's not just Jokic on that team. From top to bottom, from 1 through 15, the Nuggets are blessed. Their second unit could be a starting unit on any other team in the NBA. And I think it's pretty cool that they have such depth and presence. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope having won a championship with the Lakers in the bubble, as well as DeAndre Jordan, who's been around for a long time. They just have a lot of veterans as well as young leadership. I also think Michael Porter Jr. is also a very unsung hero on that team that at times during the playoffs has played his role, particularly against the Phoenix Suns in round one.
Talk with NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson. A couple more minutes with him here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Follow him on Twitter at ScoopB. Jimmy Butler shows up at the game tonight wearing a 4 More t-shirt. Well, how can Jimmy Butler get 4 more against this very talented and deep Denver Nuggets team?
You picked Tobias Harris over me? He's no short of having confidence, so I think it starts there. I also just think it's more to that team than just Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy is the focal point of that team. I know Jay Williams said earlier today or the last couple of days that no one has had to carry a team as hard as Jimmy Butler did. That's my buddy. I respect him dearly. I do kind of agree to disagree. I look at Iverson and his role in 2001, carrying the Sixers against the Lakers, did lose in the finals in 2001. Then you look at LeBron in 2007 and LeBron in 2018 in Eastern Conference Finals. But Jimmy does have help, and I think we've identified the supporting cast. Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, great guys to get help from. But I'm really excited to see the potential of Tyler Hero making his return in games 2 or game 3 for the Miami Heat. The fact that this team has done that, being a play-in team, losing the first game in the play-in tournament, beating the Bulls, beating the Knicks, beating the Bucks, beating the Celtics. The Celtics definitely on paper were a better team. So too are the Denver Nuggets. I think the portion that looks so impressive is the fact that that team is unfazed, not afraid, and they just go after it. And I think that's a credit to coaching. Spo, to me, is a very underrated coach, and maybe it's better that way. Maybe it's better that people don't look at him in the same vein as some of the more elite coaches, so to speak. But I really do think that Jimmy Butler is just the key that starts the engine, but there's so many other gems within that Miami Heat roster that make that a complete team, as to are the Denver Nuggets.
Before I let you go, who is the player that you think will make a big impact in the series who we had not yet talked about?
Max Strus from Miami. For Denver, Bruce Brown.
I mean, I feel like Bruce Brown feels like a guy that could have almost a triple-double in one of these games, right?
Yeah, I really like the fact that he came from Brooklyn to Denver. And I asked him recently, how's the air in Denver? He said, man, you got to really be adapted to that air. The air is really different. And, he's been in situations before where, there were championship implications in Brooklyn. Yeah. And I think he, just like we talk about Vincent and some of the other guys on the Heat that are unsung heroes, I think you got to look at guys like Bruce Brown, who, Boston, by way of Boston and my University of Miami, and didn't work out in Brooklyn, and then he went to Denver and he's earned his stripes. Like you pull for guys like that have been around a while and have latched on, the glue guy, if you will. So. I'm happy for Bruce. I want to see him do well. And I think that this series features 2 underdog teams. Although Denver is considered more elite, so to speak, I still think that there are some ways in which they still are an underdog team, as to are the Miami Heat. But yeah, I think Denver is likely the favorite to many people, but I still don't think you should look down on the Miami Heat. I think they still have enough left in the tank.
Follow him on Twitter at Scoop B. Bally Sports NBA insider Brandon Scoop B Robinson. Also check out him on Instagram at Scoop B. And of course, he joins us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. My friend, I appreciate you jumping on. Enjoy the NBA Finals. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Brother, thank you for the opportunity to be myself. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Josh Hennig here, hanging out with you on a Thursday night. We are counting down to the start of the NBA Finals. Again, coverage begins at 7:30 tonight. Tip-off around 8:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up next, your guys' thoughts and comments. NBA Finals. Nick Nurse is the new Sixers coach. All that and more coming up here on 97.3 ESPN. The text board is open at 609-403-0973. And don't forget to DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle.
The NBA Finals on ESPN Radio.
The Denver Nuggets have finally done it.
The Miami Heat become just the second 8 seed ever to make the NBA Finals.
Storming out of the conference finals, the Denver Nuggets and Miami Heat head to an epic showdown to the NBA Finals. Game 1 of the Nuggets and Heat, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins tonight at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Listen to the NBA Finals exclusively on 97.3 ESPN.
Lowe's knows the value of quality paint for pros. That's why starting on June 5th, Pro Paint Days are coming to Lowe's. Shop special savings on the products you need for all your paint jobs. Plus, MVP's members can take advantage of an additional limited time only paint offer when you shop Valspar and HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams. Join the Pro MVP's Rewards program today. Offers valid 6/5 to 6/16. Exclusions, restrictions, and more terms apply. See Lowe's.com/L/Pro Loyalty Terms. Subject to change.
Any trade, any trade, any trade. Bring any trade to Matt Blatt Nissan. And AJ the Trade Man will give you more for your trade so you can drive away with peace of mind with Matt Blatt Nissan's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
So cash in your vehicle now before it's too late and drive home in a new Nissan today. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Finding great people to hire can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Their powerful matching technology delivers so many qualified candidates. It's like finding a needle in a needle stack. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. For less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Homeowners trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Business owners trust Jenkins, too, for light commercial services. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. Call Jenkins. One call does it all. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, and drain cleaning services. Call now and learn about rebates through the HVAC Energy Efficiency Program, brought to you by South Jersey Gas. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsonSons.com.
Hi, Robert Downey Jr. here. Did you know that over $10.3 billion was lost to online crime last year alone? Online crime is a huge problem. It affects everyone, and that's why I've partnered with Aura. Aura gives you the tools you need to stay safe online. Fraud and identity theft protection, a password manager, parental controls, and more. Sign up for a free 2-week trial today at aura.com/Robert.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
6:45, time to hear what you guys have to say on the text board and the DMs. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. 609-403-0973. That's the text board. You also get DM the show through 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. As promised, George and Summer was the first to chime in earlier in the show. We'll get to him. He says, "Hey, Josh, I was wondering, when you look at last night's documentary with Allen Iverson and Larry Brown, it made me think about the discussion a few weeks ago when the question was about heart, respect, and love for your fellow players. At the time, I said I thought it was, and after watching a documentary last night and reliving the Sixers 2001 season, I am more sure than ever that it's true. If you get a chance, please watch it yourself and encourage others to watch it. It was nice to relive a time when the Sixers actually got to go to the NBA Finals. P.S. I think Nick Nurse has a lot of the same qualities that Larry Brown has. From George, George, it's on my DVR list. I did not get a chance to watch it last night. Frankly, I've been getting home, just to be brutally honest with you, I've been getting home very late, a lot of these nights because for a variety of reasons. So when I get home, I gotta really be really picky and choosy about what I'm watching later tonight. And I frankly didn't get a chance to watch it last night. I got suckered into watching some other things. And then a man's gotta get sleep. So, I keep hearing you talking about the idea that we had the conversation on game night towards this point about how there is something to be said for the fact that when players are bought into each other, when they're bought into their coach, when everybody is on the same frequency, that you have success. And I think the Miami Heat are a perfect example of that. They are a team that everyone is following Jimmy Butler. Everyone is bought in to what Eric Spoelstra is selling, right? This idea that the entire organization is on board with what they're trying to do as a whole. Now, I don't know if that means the Miami Heat are going to win this series. My heart wants them to win, but my logic in my mind says the Denver Nuggets are going to win this series in 6 games. But the Miami Heat are an amazing example of if everyone is doing their job and everyone is stepping up, playing on the same wavelength, you have a chance to compete for a championship. Now, I think part of the problem is that you go back to that 2001 Sixers season that got to the NBA Finals. I think there were a couple of issues with that team that were very unique to its time and place. First of all, that team does not get to an NBA Finals in today's NBA because that team was just not as well-rounded as an offensive team. That was a lot of, Vince Carter missing that game-winning shot in Game 7. It was the big three of Sam Cassell, Glenn Robinson, and Ray Allen not consistently producing for a series against the Sixers. It was guys like Aaron McKee and George Lynch and Eric Snow and Tyrone Hill and others having their best season all at the same time as Allen Iverson's MVP season. We talked about it earlier in the Sports Bash with Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN about how Mutombo won Defensive Player of the Year, Iverson won the MVP, Larry Brown was Coach of the Year. But what they didn't have was Shaq, Kobe, Phil Jackson, Robert Horry, Derek Fisher. It didn't matter. All the accolades, all the awards, it didn't matter. It's not a coincidence that when Giannis wins MVP, doesn't win a championship. After, when he doesn't win MVP awards anymore, he wins a championship. Jokic doesn't win MVP this year. He's competing for a championship. Winning regular season awards is fun and nostalgic, but it doesn't mean anything if you're trying to win a championship. And I think that that's kind of what you're looking at with this Sixers team. The idea that you want to get this team to the point where they were like in 2000 and 2001. Now, I do agree with you, Jordan Summers' point that Nick Nurse is innovative and creative like Larry Brown. I think the biggest problem with Larry Brown is that I think Larry was a very proud man Larry Brown was a very proud man who did not feel like he was getting the credit or the appreciation that he should have. And he kind of left the organization in part because of the fact that he felt the organization was more about Iverson than it was about him. And I got to be honest with you guys, Larry, I think that is the huge difference between him and Nick Nurse. I think Nick Nurse is much more aware and cognizant and understanding that this is a players' league and that you got to make the players have the ability to take ownership of their success and their failings. Part of the problem is that Doc Rivers was fired because people like James Harden would not take responsibility for this team losing that series. If you really think that Doc Rivers was the reason why the Sixers lost to the Celtics in 7 games, I think you and I were watching 2 different postseasons. Nick Nurse is going to force these guys to own and take accountability for their success and failings. He's not going to make it about himself. He's going to fight tooth and nail to get these guys to step up, own up, show up, or shut up. I think that is a little bit of the kind of the difference in the back and forth between these situations. Tom from the Village chimes in. It says, if Jesus was made head coach of any Philly sports team, would the fans want him fired too? I don't like this new trend of wanting a new head coach every other year. That's from Tom in the Villas. I'm with you, Tom. The whole let's fire the coach, that should solve things, is frankly probably one of the dumbest things that we as sports fans have allowed to overtake our ability to have critical thinking skills. It's the idea that people want someone to blame. Everybody loves to point the finger at somebody as long as it's not themselves. And I think that's part of the problem when it comes to sports. People don't want to blame the guy with the name on the jersey that they're wearing. People want to buy Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey jerseys. And they don't want to criticize that because then they're criticizing their decision to buy a jersey at times. People don't want to blame the players because they themselves don't want to take accountability for their own actions. We have a society full of complainers and blamers and whiners instead of a society of people take accountability. And part of taking accountability is admitting that you made a mistake. You didn't do your job. James Harden was incapable of doing that. And Daryl Morey felt that he had to fire Doc Rivers so he could say, hey, I didn't hire that guy. Give me the chance to show you, Josh Harris, Sixers ownership, that I can build a team. And the firing of the coach when anything goes wrong is not always the answer, because you look at Michael Malone in Denver, they gave him years and years to figure that out in Denver, and they got to the NBA Finals. Now, could you argue that Michael Malone was given that long leash because he's in a city like Denver whose fan base is not as crazily passionate as a Philadelphia or a New York or a Boston? Sure. You could argue that the fan base does have an impact on ownership and coaching decisions. But you look at a situation like the Flyers, I think most Flyer fans would admit that John Tortorella is a really good head coach. But they did not go to the games because of Tortorella. They didn't go to the games because the team wasn't good. So, the head coach is not always the reason and the end all be all. And Tom from the Villas, maybe you're right. Maybe Jesus does get fired if he's in certain situations. I will acknowledge this guy, John. I don't understand where John came from with this text, but out of nowhere, he texted in at 609-403-097, which is let's talk football. Eagles have no chance of returning to the Super Bowl. They stink. My opinion, John. Well, John, your opinion is subjective. It is based on frivolous information, obviously, because you and a lot of people didn't think the Eagles going to the Super Bowl last year. You and many people thought Jalen Hurts was not a good quarterback, and guess what? Jalen Hurts was the MVP runner-up. They did go to the Super Bowl, and you could argue that they probably could have won the championship. So they don't stink. They have a chance to go to the championship. You just don't like the reality that there is. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great night, everybody.
The 2023 Phillies baseball season is here.
Got him looking, strike three. Fastball, 97 miles per hour, dotted that outside corner. 8th strikeout of the game for Zach Wheeler.
And you can get the best Phillies coverage every day on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Kimbrel looking for back-to-back saves. The pitch, got him swinging, strike three.
Can the Phillies make a return to the World Series? Tune in every day to find out and listen to what our Phillies insider Frank Close has to say. Tuesdays with the Phillies mailbag, when he answers your Phillies questions. And every day with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
1-1 pitch on the way. Swung on, lifted into right field. A flare will get down into right. Turner rounding first, going to second. He'll dive in head first safely. An RBI double for Trey Turner.
South Jersey's home for the best Philadelphia Phillies baseball coverage.